I drive for Uber. I can tell you.
We do have the numbers, and you're about to prove me right.
I have the numbers.
You're about to prove me right. Go on with your Uber story.
No, I'm about to prove you wrong.
No, right.
Yep. About to prove you wrong.
Right.
And I can't give you the second part of the story. I only give you the first part of the story. I can't give you the second part of the story because I'm sure I would pass some community lines with Uber. Sure. So I'll just do the one story. So I drive Uber. When you get good service, you're supposed to 5-star. Mm-hmm. So when I drive people, I often say, I tell them a long story. I said, please don't forget to 5-star me. Right. So I've made 1,000 trips on Uber. Only 50% of people take the time to go like this. Click, 5-star. So after me, giving them good service, talking to them, blah, 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 only 50% were like, you know what, I'm going to hook that guy up with a 5-star.
You know why that's different?
50% out of 1,000 people.
You're right. Your numbers are absolutely right.
That's a great sample of people caring, because you just told me.
That's different.
You just told me if you go out there and talk to people, you can. So maybe it's my power of persuasion.
No.
I'm not
that's
asking
completely
you much to go. Click.
That's completely different. Let me tell you why that's completely different. And everything you said, I agree with, except the conclusion from that. The reason that's completely different is what I was talking about is a change in behavior, a change in ideology. What you're talking about is human nature. People are lazy. That's why they keep updating the app so that as soon as your trip finishes, it's right there. They're trying to change.
Well, you're not going to.
So these people,
you're not going to change anybody by calling them lazy. Curtis.
Well, hey, a lazy American.
People know now that you call people lazy.
I'm talking to you. I'm not talking to someone who disagrees with me. Again, I mean, I would be. It would be very difficult to convince me that those people who didn't vote for you, the vast majority of them, disliked you or hated you. You didn't have anything to change except personal behavior and being lazy and going with the app, okay? If they couldn't get out the door without hitting that thing, or if they got $1 back for rating, you would get 100, and they would. But if they hated you, they would get out and say, I hated this effing person. Plus, I hate the fact that I had to give him a rating to get out the hell out of his car. So but I will tell you this, as an Uber driver, your conversations, and specifically you and a subset of other Uber drivers, in those conversations, more so than this live stream or Jimmy Dore, you have changed people's ideologies, beliefs, not only about Uber drivers, but about maybe comics or comedians, about married people, about progressives, whatever you two were discussing, that had a more lasting, I'm not denigrating anything that we do or anything, but that had a organic going, Every time some Yahoo gets in the Uber with a black driver, an Uber driver, they leave somehow going, and it's almost racist. Oh, this person's speaks well. This person's great. I was a little worried about the way he was dressed, but he was completely friendly. That is an electric moment that means something to them and has an impact on a lot of people. But hey, am I going to rate that all the time? No, I rate all the time. Not all the time. Sometimes my battery's dead, but I come back later and can do it. But that's just but so you see my point.
But I could go further with the Uber driving thing, which I didn't want to do. But it also comes down to tipping. And, when you're with very rich, wealthy people and they don't tip and they know what a ride from the airport costs. They know what normal, that you always get tipped when I'm not a wealthy guy and I don't travel. I'm not a savvy traveler, but I sure know you're supposed to tip most during your travel. You should be thinking about who you're tipping, who you're not tipping. Well, the guy who drives you back and forth to the airport, if he's taking your bags out, he gets you there safe and there's a safe drive, there's got to be a tip involved. Well, I'm telling you, Uber people do not tip at all. They don't. It's almost like zero.
Yeah.
Lyft's a little bit better. So
you're
again,
right.
They're getting to know me. We're talking. Sometimes I'll do experiments. I'll tell them my whole financial picture. I'll lay it out there. You do different conversations just to test to see what's going on. And when it's 0%, and I'm talking about savvy travelers. I'm talking about very, very wealthy people. It's disconcerting. It's like, whoa, we're in a lot of trouble.
But you're proving my point here. I mean, you really are. because I'm that mythical wealthy billionaire in your Uber, right? And I'm not tipping. Well, why is that? I could buy this entire car you're in. Because that's behavior. That's not a change in ideology. So that is, hey, I started with Uber. I never had to tip before. In fact, they told me, never tip. You don't have to. That's one of the reasons I chose Uber. I don't have to worry about that. Or I'm like, hey, I made my money. So why am I going to tip you? Work, bastard. I got $1 billion. I had to, So different psychologies. So much so that many progressive organizations are like, look, people just don't like to tip. It doesn't matter if they have $5 million or $5. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to get off our asses and we're going to give them a decent wage. And we're going to build it into their wages. So a lot of the companies now are excluding tipping, and there's still some controversy on that, and increasing individual salaries. But Americans have already been I tip all the time. In fact, I always tip 20% over to ask any of my friends, even if I have a bad experience, because I'll often tip more for a bad experience and let them know I will never be returning. And you lost a good customer because of this experience, because this is what I tip, but I won't be back. And so I agree with what you're saying, but what I'm saying is that Americans have been trained to be assholes, to compete against.
Yeah, but I disagree because if you're a savvy traveler,
you're different. Again, you're nice, you're good, you're kind. That's not an average American.
But
you're a genius. Remember
that could be true.
It's true. You're forgetting most people aren't like you.
If you're a president of a bank, or you're a banker, or you're a financier, or you're somebody who's obviously very wealthy, you've been traveling for 20 years, your whole life. Now you're traveling in the car with a guy who's me, very cordial, can carry on a conversation, blah, blah, blah. You get out of the car, I get your bags, you drive away, no tip. I'm like, that guy knows. That guy knows that what he did was completely wrong, and he was cold-blooded, and he was like, no, you're not getting a tip.
Yeah.
Whether it be cash or on the app. So, I'm just saying, I've met these people. I know what's out there. It scares me to know what I know. You know what I'm saying? I've now done a sample research. It scares me. It's what I thought, but it's way worse.
That's what I'm saying. You already know this. You already know that and I'm not making you Superman, but a lot of I know gazillions of awesome people. And the reason I'm friends with these awesome people is because they're awesome. And not for a second do I think they're normal and unspecial and not unique and not hilarious and not intelligent. Not in a second do I think they represent the commonality of most people, let alone most Americans. They're special. And there are great people, and then there are special people, and there are unique people. But the last thing I'm thinking when I meet someone is that I bet this person's awesome. This random person in America is just going to be awesome. I think there are a lot of nice people. I think there are a lot of people who would treat me kindly. But I don't think the average person is... I think the average person presents themselves as nice. But right. I don't think... It's just like I think the average guy is probably an asshole. And, treating women wrong. I mean, that's what they've been trained, right? So, and I could probably like the guy. I could probably have a beer with the dude, have a conversation. But I'm thinking, he's probably an asshole. So, you're just confirming, like you said, what you already know about human nature, about people. These people can buy your car.
But I really didn't know it was that bad. I really, really didn't know because from my side, and again, I'm not a savvy traveler, right? So you probably have traveled way more in your life, and so have these guys, right? So I know they know what the cost was from a ride from where they're home from the airport to their home or home to the airport. They know what the cost was for that was throughout their careers. They also know what it costs to house a car or park it in the parking lot and then pick it up after you've done your trip, right? They also know throughout time that you always gave a cash tip, right? When you walked out of the car, the guy gave you bags, here's your $5 or whatever, you move on your way. So now, like you said, there's been a disruption in the model, and now they can get away with not having that guilt. And it does speak to the gig economy, which there was an article about that where they're saying that where even the people who are creating the gig economy were saying, this could be very bad, for society as a whole. Curtis is going to make me keep talking. So I didn't want to reveal that, only because speaking at a school, but a lot of people who make this money and don't tip. I feel like it shows that maybe they don't care, and it speaks to a larger problem. And again, where this gig economy is going and how it's disrupting the model, and we might have more and more of that behavior. And you see articles of it, and I can only tell you from my experience. But I'm shocked at the sample size and what I've seen. I don't know how. Like I said, the only way I imagined people who were Uber drivers who could make a living was through tips. Like if you were getting tips, then I could say, okay, you might be able to make a living doing this. It might be possible. So I don't know if these poor guys have to put signs on the back of their seats that say like, please cash tip me. I don't know if they have to like a woe is me story while I drive the person, so.
Well, I mean, I just want to say, cause I often play devil's advocate. And so I don't want to seem like I'm, countering you or anything. I always want to understand why people do things. But I agree with everything you're saying, and people have been indoctrinated because if I understand the source, then I think there's a way to counter that, right? And so this population has already been indoctrinated to not pay. And then, so psychologically, people are always looking for an out. How can I save money? We live in a country where people are trying to save money because they're not 1%, right? So from a psychological standpoint, they're not going from having more money and then making more money. Psychologically, I'm not defending this. I'm explaining it. They're going from I'm saving money and then now I'm supposed to tip, And again, I always tip over 20%. So that's what I would hope people would do. But they're going from I'm spending less to more. Their psychological, natural, organic reaction is, no, I'm not going to do this. And then they're thinking about their kids. I'm not talking about the wealthy people. That's a different psychology. That's about something else. But they're going.
But the other side I would tell you is the hardest working, the blue collar, the poorest people are the ones that are going to tip.
Absolutely.
So
that's
the ones
my
that
point.
Understand, but so it's really disheartening when you
shared
people
experience.
Are tipping. But I think,
and I hear that all the time. It's the people who make the less will tip the most and the most because it's personal, and they're like, I know what you're doing. But the psychology of the average writer is going to be like, oh, Uber's trying to get, I'm already paying this. I'm already, I got my 3 kids. So everybody brings their own personal thing because they don't have that sort of socialist mindset where we want everyone to, but if you want hope, remember, the younger you get, then the more sort of support you're going to have in terms of, I'm learning what's right. I have less baggage.
Well, I don't know. I think the technology doesn't teach that. I think it's teaching the opposite.
Technology doesn't teach that. You're right.
No, the disruption models of the gig economy is. I was using the wrong words. I think that the fear is that more and more of this is going to happen, and there's going to be more and more of that attitude, whatever that attitude is. Which, like I said, I never expected to experience what I'm experiencing because I know I've told you this joke before, but I talked to somebody. I was talking to a physics teacher at Thanksgiving one time, and he said, with Uber,
as one is prone to do.
What do you make a mile driving with Uber? And I was like, well, if I knew that, I wouldn't be driving for Uber. Right? If I was that intelligent and I could crack numbers like that, buddy, I'm not going to be driving for Uber. So I just wasn't expecting what I'm experiencing. It told me there's a way bigger problem than anybody could understand. And you could only understand there by doing this sample and doing this job and understanding. And like you said, you can try different methods.
I think can
I be nicer? What do I bring up? Like just as an experiment, like what do I talk about? I've given people my full financial picture. I've given them down to the dollar. I've told them exactly what I make, what do I have in the bank, where, no tip. And just as an experiment, like, and again, I don't even care about the
tip. That won't work psychologically because they become self-aware in on the joke and they feel that sort of guilt.
This guy,
I'm talking about if
there was no joke. I was just having a conversation. This guy was getting a new job with E-Trade, and we were talking about that. And I was like, so I just pretended that we were talking about, and at the same time getting his advice, as far as investing. Gave my full financial picture. Got out. Seemed like a pretty a guy that would be the guy. Like, oh, that guy. I probably reached him. He seemed like a really cool guy. No, so I mean.
No shared experience. I mean, you already answered your question. If the blue collar people are the ones who are tipping frequently and more, which is what I hear all the time, you can extrapolate from that. The most wealthy people are not, because of something I said an hour ago about they don't have that personal experience. Logically, on paper, we go rich, pay more, but that's logic. Emotionally and psychologically, organically, these people are disconnected from other people, and sometimes in a sort of evil way, but most often in just an environmental way.
But I agree with all that. We can discuss all the reasons why it occurs, and all I'm saying to you is it's a way bigger problem than what maybe me and you thought it was. Like, maybe you don't think it's that big of a problem.
No, I do think it's a big problem. But
I always thought, like, oh, we have a problem in America. Like, there's an issue. Like, now I'm like, oh my God, it's way worse than I thought. And there's no, we can both sit there and go, oh, we can talk to each person and slowly change everything. And I'm going to tell you again, we don't have the troops to do that. We don't have the time nor the troops.
We do have the troops. Here's why we have the troops.
Man, most of them are wacky.
No, here's
most of them are talking about false flags.
Here's why we have the troops. We don't have the troops if we're relying on the superheroes in the silos. That's the Bill Gates.
Wasn't that the name of your first album? Superheroes and Silos? All right, go ahead.
It was actually Silos and Superheroes, but it was
excuse me, apologize.
It was actually R-rated. But the Bill Gates sort of solution, which is what a lot of people have, I'm not so sure is going to work. And that is one person, metaphorically, going, here's $1,000 trillion and I will fix everything. I don't think anything's ever worked that way. I don't think anything has ever worked that way. I think, like Bernie Sanders says, it's millions of people rising up. Here's 5, here's 10, and I'm not even meaning that literally, like a dot. But it takes one person going to another one person, not one person going trillion, and you change that. You give $1 here, you give an idea here, you give that. And then it rises up to such a level because we can't, the 1% is not going to take care of the 99%. Anyone who thinks that is, well, you're going to die unhappy. That will never happen. And it has never happened with slavery or anything else. What happens is the 99% sort of rise up, metaphorically speaking, and then the 1% goes, okay, F it. Let's do Social Security. Let's do this. I want to get elected. Everybody's yapping. Let's just do it, right? But if everybody doesn't do that sort of rise up action, they're not going to tip the scale because ultimately they don't want sort of like a metaphorical riot. So we do have the numbers by people sort of going to your, goofy right-wing psychotic sister and going, what the hell? What's going on with this? And then she goes, okay, maybe I need to take that down. Because that is a easy virus to spread. And I don't think you need to drive Uber to sense how bad things are. Because people who don't drive for Uber know someone who drives for Uber. I have so many people who I know drive for Uber in so many different areas. Just like dating apps, just like Tinder. How many people are on Tinder? These are things that no one knows about that everyone's doing. It's just presentation. It's Facebook culture. We all know someone who's in jail or went to jail or did a crime or something, but you don't go to a party and talk about it. So people who even aren't driving know, because they go, gosh, everybody's driving for Uber. And then other people don't know that they're driving for Uber. So we get it. The 99% get it. Bernie was a lightning rod to tell us, and people forget this, right? Bernie was a lightning rod to tell us to sort of get off our asses and do this. He never one day said, I'm going to take care of this. Not for one day. He never said, I'm going to become president and I'm going to fix this all up. He said, I'm going to tell you again, and you better listen to me this time, because I've been saying this for the last 18,000 decades. I need y'all to get off your asses, millions of you, rise up, because that's the only way they're going to do it. And everyone knows that. And so we forget that. We forget that our change is what will end the Holocaust, will end slavery, will get gay people married. It was not someone sitting in an office going, let's just do this. It was always us.
And I would say, no way. I would say, first of all, they'll stop you if they have to. They will find a way to stop the change that you're trying to make, whether it's by, and this is conspiratorial, whether it's by killing you, maiming you, shutting you down.
How did we get those? How did we get these changes then?
Charging, that I told you,
slavery, gay marriage, women voting.
Very, 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 very slow process.
It's a slow process, but how did these happen? Because a politician was like, these dumb assholes in the country, let's just go ahead and do this. No, push came to shove because we forced them to make these changes. We are still alive today, and everybody alive today remembers the day before. Remembers the day before legalized marriage, right? And I know we're still battling, and it's all that kind of stuff, but we remember it was like, when did this happen? What the hell just happened? Because this was never going to happen, right? So I imagine that's what it felt like with slavery.
We're not on the path of change right now. Income inequality is increasing. Every time that Bernie has to make a statement about income equality, he has to up his little percentage point to it's worsening. So it's not going in the direction that we want it to go, and it's not changing. It's getting worse, and that's why Uber becomes a disruption model, and people become desperate enough to use that model because they're in a bad place. They have to go to the gig economy to use it.
Well, it's not becoming worse. It's becoming different. It's like slavery. Like, we don't have slavery anymore, but did that abolish racism? On paper, it abolished racism. On paper, it abolished racism, right? No, it just ended slavery. And racism still exists. So it's not getting worse in so much it's changing its form, it's changing its shape, because there's always a different angle. There's always, let's hire this guy because he doesn't look thuggy, so he's a good one. Let's put black people in commercials with the Asian. Let's put one gay guy in there, maybe one transgender person. So it's always that sort of thing. But at least not everybody's getting thrown out back and beaten to a pulp. So yeah, it takes a long time, but it doesn't change like that. It changes, right? You can attribute so many changes just by sort of media representation. It happens in media first, and then people go, "Oh, I see it. It's not so bad," and then they start making things, right? You could talk about, what was that show? Straight guy for the straight clothes for the gay guy, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. I'll let you stumble on that one because I'm not going to say something inappropriate. People
queer eye for the straight guy.
People who were conservative and religious and everything else were watching.
That was the title.
Thank you, and they remade it on Netflix. And so many people who were very.
You should watch it. You should watch it more.
I like this shirt, damn it. So people got so comfortable with these almost forced images upon them. They were like, "Oh, I got used to it," and so but that came years before any national legalized law, right? It's a slow process, but every day is a change.
I'm still not going to sleep well tonight. Nothing you said has changed
what
I know from my sample of research, from what we've experienced together. I mean, we've experienced some of the. I mean, has there been a time like? Can we think about understanding that the DNC rigged an election? Like, can we think as how just devastating that is?
That's a good example.
Your grasp of reality. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to wrap your head around.
That's a great example. That's a great example. Again, before people discovered that, it wasn't that they discovered oil for the first time or that they discovered, America with people living on it. That's the way it was. They discovered America with people living on it. That is the way it's always been. What 2016 did was educate far more people that, hey, this is the way it's always been, which is a change. It didn't get rid of it, but it's a positive change because now at least people aren't walking around and living in a non-reality. That
is bullshit. That is bullshit because most Americans they watch the MSNBC and they don't know the Russians did you a favor, but you don't know that. You talk so much shit, but you do not know we did you big favor, show you DNC very dirty, but you don't listen. And Trump is a good man. He's a very good man.
Well, I don't know if they would say he's a good man.
He's not as good as Putin, but he's a very good man. He's a very good man.
I mean, what you're getting into is by the way, very good Russian. I enjoyed that very much.
That's bullshit. You don't mean that. You don't mean that.
You bullshit. I can't do Russian.
I can tell.
I cannot do Russian.
Don't talk to me like that.
You a silly man.
I might be not from here, but you not talk to me like that.
You silly man. You silly man, which you're not. But yeah, this is why you have a lot of progressives who want anarchy, right? They want, because that is they want to speed up the time it takes for change to happen. You want to take over things and have a revolution that is literally a revolution.
I always feel like when you're talking about that little tiny world that we were in a year ago, 2 years ago.
Well, that's
we lived on this little tiny weird planet.
We did.
Nobody else knows what you're talking about. I mean, I know what you're talking about, but
no,
you're talking about a tiny planet we were on.
It's
all these weird tiny people, and we're not on that planet. We're free. We flew off.
We're
okay, Curtis. We flew off.
We still are on that planet. Like.
No, don't say that. How dare you?
Well, we are. I mean, think about like
it's a very small tiny planet of progressives and left weird.
That's what people don't. That's what people don't accept. Is that like the Ben? What's his name? Ben Shapiro. We have no idea about his experience. He has no idea. No. I don't mean his history, his biography.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Like his experience.
Defend Ben Shapiro, even though you know that really makes me unhinged.
He does. Oh, I'm not defending him, but he.
I know.
He, he has no contact with our whole 2016 experience. His experience in 2016 was completely
I definitely
different.
I had experience. They're all dumb. They're all idiots. They're all left-wing wacko idiots. All of them.
Exactly,
you know it, Curtis.
And they never tasted any of that. They never saw any of that. But he had a whole different experience, and he's completely swimming in it. And he has zero perspective of our silo. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't really know what's changed other than
but I look at Ben Shapiro and I weigh it differently. I think he's unauthentic. He's a liar. He's a guy who, and I don't want to use the words that people normally use, but people see a way to make money. He sees a way to talk, that he can do a certain way to talk and make money, and he's smart enough to use the avenues. I don't even know if he really believes in what he believes. I mean, who knows? He can come out tomorrow and he could be, he could be seeing prostitutes, or he could, I don't know. I don't know what horrible thing he has in his closet, right? That's going to come out in the next, because he's just a huge hypocrite, right? There's something.
I do suspect something will come out of some closet.
Exactly. No, I don't want to say that. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying he might. I'm sure he's got a bag full of bones in his hypocritical closet, which they all do, and that's the whole.
I do believe his back has bones as well.
God willing.
Yeah.
But I'm just
saying, he does. He does. They all do.
I just don't agree with the. And I love that you're being hopeful, and people hear this and go, "Oh, I think that's almost the worst thing you can do is to make people hopeful." Because I think this is not a time for hope. I think this is a time for. I don't know, man.
I'm not trying to be hopeful. In fact, I think I'm being extremely negative because I think I'm saying it takes time, and that you're probably going to die before you reap the benefits. The reason I say that is because we have hundreds of years of that always being the case. You die, and until you map that dot of actual change progressing like a lightning bolt. That's hey, I can vote now. I'm a woman. I'm a free person as a black person. Those are like boom, long time, then a boom. But in between those dots, it was never ever has been historically a hyper jump from that point. And so I thought negative in a sense because I'm realistic in that change happens. All old people die. All young people replace them. All the young people are smarter and brighter and less assholes than the prior generation. And they go, hey, I have no hate for black people. I don't know where that was historically. So to me, I see it as a scientific inevitability. It'll get better. It's just, will it happen in 2 years, or if Bernie runs and gets elected? No. But will that be part of that incremental change? Abso-fucking-lutely. So but I think Trump was the best thing that ever happened because he lulled people out of their slumber and go, oh, we need shit to do. There's shit we got to get do. Otherwise, we would have been like, oh, okay, Hillary's good. I hope she beats Jeb Bush. I really think I hope Hillary beats Jeb. So Trump comes along and people are going, whoa. So I think we got a hyper jump. I think Bernie was a weird, freaky, jump.
But again, I don't know. I just sit there and go, my God, he's going to put 2 Supreme Court justices. Who knows how they're going to fuck with the law. We don't know how long this is actually going to be, send us in the wrong direction. I don't know. I don't see what I saw with the Bernie Sanders movement. It was the only time in my life that occurred. So again, it's all new to me. And then to watch this fade out period, and to know that it's August, and to know that these midterm elections come around the corner, and to know that again, I just feel that recurring lull. And yeah, you're talking about incremental change, but in the meantime, again, people are becoming poorer. Kids are becoming poorer. There is a sliding effect. Me and you, we can talk like, hey, things are pretty rosy. I've got a big giant house. You've got your nice little backdrop over there. You got your vegan shirt. But I mean, there's so much suffering in this country alone.
It is a nice backdrop and shirt.
And it's hard to imagine there will be. I can't imagine anything that's going to happen that's going to. I'm with you with the Trump thing, but not enough people realize, again, like when people talk about it's a republic, it's like, well, you don't understand what a republic means. It's not a good system. Electoral college doesn't work anymore. They run it as a game board. It's a boxed game. They take out and go, okay, how many states do we have to win? It's not.
Billionaires are not sitting on their asses and going, let's see what happens. Who knows what's going to happen? Hey, I hope we get lucky this year. Of course. So they're moving
levers.
They're controlling the game. Who would think? That's there's conspiracies, right? Which are nuts. But then there's just come on. I have multi-billions of dollars. Hope my businesses gets lucky. Hope I don't have to pay more taxes. That's not happening. All right, so you're lobbying, you're paying off people, you got lawyers, you got offshore accounts. You're doing what a billionaire would do, which is not sit on his ass, roll the dice, and hope that his whole entire world changes. So that's not conspiracy. That's, hey, you protect your shit. So, yeah, that's just a reality. And the best thing people can do who feel completely hopeless is to change your world. Okay, if you have kids, don't raise racists, don't raise Nazis. Right? I'm being a little facetious, but it's true.
Well, look, I'll go a little bit further. You should play that bit about because I'll take us to somewhere that we need to go in a different, because like I said, we can run around and chase our tails. And so I want to bring up something that's really politically incorrect that I always bring up with people, and it's similar to the bit that you sent me to Steve Hofstetter talking about people having too many kids. Well, I often said, because we've talked sometimes about having politically totally incorrect ideas in my head, and I always bring them up because I like to bring them up to see people's reactions. So one of my things
truth is truth.
It's gonna definitely like go, oh my god, because this is the reaction I always get. So I always had an idea about when people have their income cannot support above their children, that somehow we have to control the amount or their ability to have children at that point.
Right.
So I've often talked about like providing them with, free birth control, or, going as far as having them come in monthly to make sure everything is okay with their levels and that maybe they're not able to produce children. So when I tell people about these ideas, they're just like, oh my God, you can't do that. That is so wrong. I'm like, well, it just seems logical to me that if they don't have the means to raise children, we really don't want them getting pregnant to have more children. But when you tell people that, they're just like, you can't do that. I'm like, well, to me, it makes sense for the children. No, but that's freedom, man. You're taking away people's freedom. I go, yeah, but at the same time.
Well, there's a whole movement. There's what is it called? Anti-natalism. It's a movement of people who are like,
I never heard of that. Yeah, I never heard
stop
of that term.
Producing children, and they are like, they hate babies.
Wow, that's so funny. Well, I'm not that.
I know, but it's a real movement.
Like, people are like, you can't get the government involved in people stopping them from having kids. I'm like, I know, but doesn't it make logical sense if you said, okay, if you get yourself together, you get a better job, then maybe we'll consider, you can have your fourth child. But right now,
here's how they describe it. They say, I don't know if I'm even pronouncing it right, but anti-natalism is a philosophical position that assigns a negative value to birth.
No, that's not what
I know you're not. I know you're not, but I wanted to, sort of the movement behind that. Anti-natalists argue that people should refrain from procreation because it is morally bad. Some also recognize procreation of other sentient beings as morally bad. In scholarly,
there is a group for everything, man. I mean, you can bring up anything. I didn't see it, but I never even heard of this.
I know. Term. You know where I learned this? Is where I learn everything online. I found a group. And I'm fascinated by these people, and they are the most, I shouldn't say the most, but they're as
what's so funny? I have to start
every other group.
I have to start like doing what you're doing. Like, I have to start looking for a group that says like, I've completely given up, and just go.
Yeah,
I've given up politically, and just go there and just hang out and talk, because it would probably be fun, and you probably like, could you imagine going somewhere where everybody says like, I've just given up politically. All right, let's talk about something.
Well, you did. Remember that TED Talk you watched with the black guy who infiltrated some of the neo-Nazi groups and et cetera?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of like that. I learned so much from, people who are just on a different spectrum. I'm like, oh, I get why they're that way, right? I already know why people, on my side know, and you learn so many different layers, not things that make you go, oh, I agree with you, but you're like, oh, it wasn't so, it was like so many people entered from a different standpoint, and then they just got like indoctrinated.
But I feel like whatever I feel like each day, like if I feel a certain way each day, I should just go and look for a group how I'm feeling, and then I'll feel more comfortable with the way I feel. You know what I'm saying? Because I go through all these different weird moods and feelings of what and then you go and you just get supported and you move on with your day. Maybe that's my problem. I need to get more group help.
Well, that's Facebook.
I don't even think that way, right? Because I just want to live inside myself, and I want to suffer within myself, and I want to get through this thing on my own. I don't have to anymore. I can there's a group for everything. What's wrong with me?
It's free counseling. It's free counseling.
I need a haircut group. I need a haircut, but I can't get there. I just can't do it. There's got to be a group for that. Let me go talk and see if they can get somebody to the house.
I don't know how many members are there, but that group exists.
Doesn't matter, right? Doesn't matter.
All it needs is be one. Just
one to talk to. Just to talk me down.
And they're all there.
The process.